As we all know, the SAG-AFTRA strikes have been resolved, thankfully. But I think through the process, a lot more attention was paid to just how poorly actors have been treated by the industry. For a lot of people, it probably felt easy enough to dismiss because they read the news and they see headlines about how much The Rock earns per movie. But for the overwhelming majority of actors, it's not all Jungle Cruise and Fast X. Actors get mistreated in a wide variety of different ways. But the main thing that I want to focus on in this video is the audition and self-tape process, and generally how I think it's bullshit. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, here's how it goes. When a film or TV show is hiring actors, they'll often put out what's called a casting call with all the roles that they want to fill. A lot of times, especially since COVID, they'll ask for what's called a self-tape, which is where an actor will film themselves reading lines from the script at home or wherever, and then send it into the production. The rules have recently changed with the new agreement, and they now have updated requirements, such as a minimum 48-hour turnaround and a 5.5-page maximum, which, let me remind you, is the improved negotiated terms. I know a lot of actors, and in the past, it was not at all uncommon for them to get an email from their agent at like 5 p.m. asking for a self-tape that night. They would have to drop whatever they're doing, go set up the camera and lighting equipment, go over sometimes 10 or more pages of material, learn it, do as many takes until they felt they have a good performance, edit it all together, and then send it in. All in like 4 hours sometimes. If you're an actor, you're essentially like an ER doctor who's always on call, and you can get a notification at any moment that you need to drop everything and go do this arduous process. And productions know that actors will do it because, well, they want to book work. But just like in a previous video that you can watch here, I talked about how film festivals exploit filmmakers' fear and desire. Producers are similarly exploiting actors' desire to work. I'm sorry to interrupt the video, but YouTube has notified me that about 95% of you that are watching this are not subscribed to the channel. And I just want to say, come on, just subscribe. You made it this far into the video, you must be enjoying something about it. Okay, we now return to our regularly scheduled video. Imagine if you were applying for a job at a company, and at 6 p.m. they were like, hey, we need you to memorize 10 pages of stuff and then do a Zoom interview with us in like 2 hours. You would be like, absolutely not, asshole. But this is literally what it's always like for actors trying to book a job. And honestly, in-person auditions aren't much better. Again, they ask you to prepare pages and pages of scenes, come into the office, God knows where, perform in front of a bunch of strangers sitting at a folding table, and if you're extremely lucky, you get the privilege of being called back in 2, 3, 4 more times to perform hours of unpaid labor. And let me underscore that point. Actors are not compensated for any of this work. Their compensation comes if they're the one person that books the role. And like the lottery, the producers are banking on their hopes and prayers that it'll all be worth it if they just happen to hit the jackpot. Producers are basically telling actors that they should be grateful for the opportunity to audition for their project. I also think that producers assume that since they're only giving you 3 pages to do for a self-tape, that it's not so bad. They look at the sides and they're like, it takes me what, 3 minutes to read these? It can't possibly take that long to make a tape, right? When in reality, it's literally 4 or 5 hours of completely unpaid labor. So say that you're very, very lucky and you get 3 self-tapes in a week. That could easily be 15 hours of work you have to do without any compensation. And to top it all off, even if you do a self-tape and you come in for 2 or 3 callbacks, you put all this work and emotional investment into auditioning for a TV show or a movie that could literally completely change your life, you almost never hear back from them. If you book the part, you obviously do find out, so one person does get a yes or no, but everybody else almost never hears that they went with another actor. You just literally hear nothing. However many auditions and then radio silence. To me, this is so f***ed up. On my last film, I had to get self-tapes from actors for a few of the roles, and once we had cast all the parts, I wanted to notify all the other actors that we had gone with somebody else, just to do them the courtesy of letting them know. And I was shocked and dismayed to find out that that wasn't even an option through the self-tape service that we used. My amazing casting director had to come up with a sort of hack where we messaged everybody, people we hired and didn't hire alike, saying something like, all the roles have been cast, if you didn't get an email, we're sorry, etc., etc. I honestly couldn't believe it. The system is so hardwired to treat actors like cattle that they don't even offer you the option to treat them like a human being. I'm sure producers would come back and say, productions are so rushed, it would take too much time to do this, which I obviously think is bullshit. If you can't take literally 20 seconds to send the most cursory email letting an actor know that they didn't book a role, then you need to work on your time management skills. I don't know what the solution is to this, but I do have one idea that I think could work, and I just want you to hear me out on this. We should do what pet adoption places do. I know, just listen. When you adopt a cat or a dog from a shelter, you usually have to pay some small fee like $50 or even just $20 sometimes. Part of this is just to ensure that they weed out people that aren't super serious about having a pet or are just 100% untrustworthy. That barrier to entry is just enough that it separates the wheat from the chaff. Similarly, I think that productions should have to pay actors $5 per page to do a self-tape or audition. If you want to have actors prepare 15 pages of material for an audition, that's fine, but you have to pay each of them $75. That's not much money for a lot of TV shows and movies, but I think it's enough that they would think twice about having 2,000 actors spend tons of time working on a 20-page audition. And even though $75 isn't a lot of money, if you're an actor and you do one 15-page audition every week, that's almost $4,000 at the end of the year. And I don't know about you, but I don't know any actor who couldn't use an extra $4K in their pocket. Maybe The Rock, but I'm pretty sure that he's offer only anyway. And I think that's similar to how SAG has different contracts for different tiers of projects. If you're an ultra low budget indie film, maybe it could be like $1 a page or something. Again, this is just to focus people a little bit more and to take away the absolute chokehold of power that producers usually lord over actors in the audition process. I think that even that small barrier to entry would force productions to take actors' humanity into consideration, even just a little bit more. And it should be a requirement, no matter what your budget size, to notify actors whether they did or did not book a role. That doesn't cost any money, and it just seems like common decency. Actors as a whole do not make a ton of money. So to ask them to do hundreds of hours of unpaid labor every single year seems kind of unreasonable to me. If you're an actor, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What has your experience been with self-tapes and auditions, and what do you think is a good solution to this problem? I really appreciate you all taking the time to watch this video, and I hope that you'll consider sticking around by subscribing. And I'll see you in the next one.